Lesson 3.2 Disaster Awareness, Preparedness and Management. Report by Kirjan Valenzuela, BSHM1E. Republic Act 91633, Section 11. The creation of the National Service Reserve Corps. There is hereby created a National Service Reserve Corps to be composed of the graduates of the non-ROTC components. Members of this corps may be tapped by the state literacy and civic welfare activities through the joint effort of the DND, CHED, and TESDA. Republic Act 10121, Section 13, Accreditation, Mobilization, and Protection of Disaster Volunteers and National Service Reserve Corps, CSOS, and the private sector. The government agencies, CSOS, private sector, and LGU may mobilize individuals or organize volunteers to augment their respective personnel complement and logistical requirements in the delivery of disaster risk reduction program and activities. The agencies, CSOS, private sector, and LGU concerned shall take full responsibility for the enhancement, welfare, and protection of volunteers and shall submit the list of volunteers to the OCD through the LDRRMOS for accreditation and conclusion in the database of community disaster volunteers. A national roster of ACDV, National Service Reserve Corps, CSOS, in the private sector shall be maintained by the OCD through the LDRRMOS. Accreditation shall be done at a municipal level. Mobilization of volunteers shall be in accordance with the guidelines to be formulated by the NDRRMC consistent with the provisions of this Act. Any volunteers who incurs death or injury while while engaged in any of the activities defined under this Act shall be entitled to compensatory benefits and individuals' personal accident insurance as may be defined under the guidelines. The Philippines is located in the Circum-Pacific Belt of Fire and Typhoon. This being so, the country has always been subjected to natural disaster and calamities any time of the year. In whatever part of the country, we have been experiencing yearly natural calamities, floods, typhoons, tornadoes, earthquakes, drought, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, which have brought incessant miseries to our people, loss of lives, properties. In the mid-70s and 80s, strong typhoons and torrential rains brought devastation to Manila and large areas of central Luzon. The 1990 killer earthquake that hit several Luzon provinces as well as Metro Manila and the effects of 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption had put the National Disaster Coordinating Council or NDCC in the forefront to enhance the people's preparedness and ensure precision and spontaneity in responding to emergencies or catastrophes. The NDCC, together with the concerned agencies, conduct regular mobilization, exercises, and drills at all levels with the participation of the private agencies concerned and the non-government organization. Location: Southeastern Asia, archipelago between the Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, east of Vietnam. Climate: tropical marine, northeast monsoon, November to April, southwest monsoon, May to October. Terrain: mostly mountains with narrow to extensive coastal lowlands. Population distribution. Population concentrated where good farmlands lie. Highest concentration are northwest and south central Luzon, the southeastern extension of Luzon, and the islands of the Visayan Sea, particularly Cebu and Negros. Manila is home to one-eighth of the entire national population. Natural hazards. Asteroid typhoon belt usually affected by 15 and struck by 5 to 6 cyclone storms each year. Landslides, active volcanoes, destructive earthquakes, and tsunamis. Current environmental issues. Uncontrolled deforestation, especially in watershed areas, illegal mining and logging, soil erosion, air and water pollution in major urban centers, coral reef degradation, increasing pollution, and coastal mangrove swamps that are important fish breeding grounds, coastal erosion, dynamite fishing, wildlife extinction. International environmental agreements, Party 2, Biodiversity, Climate Change Kyoto Protocol, Desertification, Endangered Species, Hazardous Waste, Law of the Sea, Marine Dumping, Ozone Layer Protection, Ship Pollution, Tropical Temper 83, Tropical 94, Wetlands, Whaling. Geography Note. Note 1. For decades, the Philippine archipelago was reported as having 7,107 islands. In 2016, the National Mapping Authority reported that hundreds of new islands had been discovered and increased the number of islands to 7,641. Though not all of the new islands have been verified, the country is favorably located in relation to many of Southeast Asia's main water bodies: the South China Sea, Philippine Sea, Sulu Sea, Celebes Sea, and Luzon Strait. Note, Note 2. Philippines is one of the countries along the Ring of Fire, a belt of active volcanoes and earthquakes epicenters bordering the Pacific Ocean. Up to 90% of the world's earthquakes and some 75% of the world's volcanoes occur within the Ring of Fire. Within the Ring of Fire. Note 3. The Philippines sits as astride the Pacific Typhoon Belt, and an average of 8 typhoons make landfall on the most exposed in the world to tropical storms. What are we preparing for? The Philippines was the most disaster-prone country in the world for the past century. So out of 173 countries assessed for their exposure to hazard, the Philippines placed third. So we can see in the picture that the Philippines is in third rank out of 173 countries in the world risk country, or the most disaster prone country, with a risk percent of 24.32%. RP disaster or risk profile is vulnerable to almost all types of natural hazards because of its geographical location. So we can see in the picture that the Philippines archipelago occupies the western rim of the Pacific Ocean, or western segment of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a most active part of the Earth that is characterized by an ocean encircling belt of active volcanoes and earthquake generators or fault. Phases of recent disaster. We can see in the image that every home, building, and pieces of infrastructure has collapsed due to the various disasters we have faced. And we people are the main source why this is happening in our to our world today. Earthquakes. What are earthquakes? An earthquake is the result of a sudden release of energy in the earth crust that creates. Earthquakes are recorded with seismometer, also known as seismograph. The largest recorded earthquake in the United States was magnitude 9.2 that struck Prince William Sound, Alaska on Good Friday on March 28, 1964. The largest recorded earthquake in the world was a magnitude 9.5 in Chile on May 22, 1960. World's deadliest recorded earthquake occurred in 1556 in central China, killing an estimated 830,000 people in 1976. Another deadly earthquake struck Tangshan, China, where more than 250,000 people were killed. Earthquake drill. Earthquake is a natural phenomena and cannot be prevented. It can strike quickly without warning. Earthquake can damage lives and properties. No available technology that give an accurate earthquake prediction. Phase of an earthquake drill. Phase 1. Alarm. A siren or bell is used to indicate an earthquake. Phase 2. Response. Perform the duck, cover, and hold under sturdy desk, tables, or chairs until the alarm stops. Phase 3. Evacuation. Evacuate the building using the safe route to open spaces. Phase 4. Assembly. Go to your respective divisions. Phase 5. Head count. Leaders must check their group and make sure everyone was accounted. And lastly, phase 6. Evaluation. Identify problem encountered during the drill and remedy then for future drills. Epicenter of an earthquake is the location directly above the hypocenter of the surface of the earth. Hypocenter of an earthquake is the location beneath where the fault begins. Magnitude is a measured value of the earth's size. The magnitude is the same matter where are or how strong or weak the shaking was in various location. Intensity is a measure of shaking and this value does vary with location. So, typical organization of disaster control group. Chairman is responsible for developing the plan to protect life and property and to minimize damage in the event of a civil defense emergency or other disaster. Assistant chairman serve as the principal assistant to DCG chairman and act for him in his absence and performs such duties the chairman may assign to him in addition to being deputy. So, the staff's elements, the security team shall be responsible for securing uh, vacate buildings, hospitals, establishments, factories, schools, etc., or areas of evacuation centers and areas of operation. Supply team shall be responsible for determining requirements of all action teams. He or she shall identify the sources of such supplies as may be needed. Communication team shall be responsible for receipt of warning information from the local civil defense directors or other authoritative sources and disseminate such warning to all offices and personnel. Operation teams. Warning team should ensure that warning signals can be received by all occupants and offices. Evacuation team is responsible for supervising and expediting the plan and controlled movement of all building occupants in an emergency. Fire brigade team organizers the firefighting teams or brigades for initial free fighting operations. Rescue team is responsible for locating injured or trap a person and transferring them to a place where they can be taken cared cured of during an emergency. Medical team, as head of the health and first aid team, is responsible for training and equipping all personnel assigned to perform medical and first aid services in emergency and for supervising these operations within the building during emergency. And damage and control team is responsible for controlling utilities in facility or building during emergency.